The old when you accidentally admit the truth, when the truth accidentally comes out, and you pretty much end up admitting that everything you're fighting for is one big complete scam, an absolute lie not rooted in progressive values and repairing historical norms, but rather some sort of vendetta harboring rage, wanting to get back, masquerading as the good guy, when really all you're seeking is revenge. And in this case, revenge on people who had nothing to do with any of it. You might have guessed just by that vague description, we're talking about reparations. We got two wokies on a Zoom call, having a grand old time, a real woke conversation for the ages, which now somehow got leaked to the internet and is making the rounds across social media. Let's get into the woke mind virus, let's have a conversation about reparations, and of course the woke progressive cult members. You guys are gonna get a kick out of this one. Let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so take a look at this conversation between a female professional soccer player and some sort of woke progressive activist.
It's again displaying our own white supremacy, especially trying to slide into your DMs. Help me, fix me.
Let me say something else.
Right?
Let me say something else. Because again, I told you I'm an independent people's worker. I'm happy that your people want to give me their money and they want to support me. I'll take it. Thank you. Thank you. Trust me. Thank you. But at the same time, when we start talking about intersectionality, which is white supremacy, which is gender, which is capitalism, Americans, white people, I need you to know that your money will not assuage you from your guilt. You cannot pay your way out of this. There aren't enough reparations in the world that you can pay us. And so you think because you write a check or you slide me something in Venmo that you're absolved and you can tell somebody, well, I gave Dr. Blay $100. I'm not racist. Dr. Blay is going to spend your $100 and still tell you that you're racist. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Ha ha ha, that was awesome. Was it? Really? That seemed like the opposite of awesome. That seemed honestly like the opposite of progression. You know, again, the same people who label themselves as progressives, finding solutions to the world's complex problems, don't seem to be bringing solutions to the table, but rather more anger, more misery, and more division. You know, for years, these same social activists have been telling us that reparations is a must. Now they're accidentally saying on Zoom calls that reparations would mean nothing. That no matter what white people do, no matter how much they pay in, no matter how much they give in to the white guilt grift, that it'll never be enough and that actually you're still racist. Does that seem progressive to you? Does that seem like policy and ideology that's going to help mend our cultural wounds? Not at all. It's literally the exact opposite. Again, it boils down to how I describe leftism and progressive thought and ideology. It boils down to one word and one word alone: misery. We have individuals who I would personally like to describe as grifters who clearly are miserable, angry, vindictive, with a lust for vengeance in their hearts. They claim that their intentions are pure, but obviously that could not be further from the truth. Revenge? Those aren't positive concepts that are going to bring society to a kumbaya moment where everyone holds hands together in a circle singing songs of unity, love, and progression. It is the polar opposite. What we constantly see being pushed is negativity, finger pointing, blame, and worst of all, if you ask me, this sort of targeting or generalization of entire groups of people. She's not talking about people who are guilty of oppression. She's not talking about people who have committed historical sins or possibly sins in the current day. No, she's talking about literally all white people. She's saying all of you are racist. All of you, in fact, are so racist that no matter what you do, redemption is never available. There is no redemption. You are beyond that point. You are too far gone, and nothing you do will ever change that. I don't know. Personally, as a white person, that makes me feel horrible. Hearing people say that, now my reaction could be negative. I could respond once again with anger, which is kind of the whole dangerous element of this whole thing. But honestly, my genuine emotional response is that of sadness. Because what I see here is a repeating cycle. What I see here is many generations past, we're still experiencing an inability to move past things and to achieve some level of understanding and forgiveness. The idea that you would hold current white people, all white people, guilty of the actions of a few from hundreds of years ago, and really, we're talking about a few. It's not like the entire Western world was nothing but slave owners. At the time, there were white slaves, and I think roughly 5% of the population, only the elite few, actually owned slaves, as if we should hold all white people accountable for their actions, as if we should attribute malice to people's intent, as if we should claim that people are truly subconsciously racist, even if they don't want to admit it, and that they should be re-educated, and that their souls can essentially never be redeemed. It is such an ideology of hate, misery, vengeance, vindictiveness. It's truly something that I find sad. It's something that I find dark and wrong, a path that leads to no good. You know, where does this lead us? That's the question that I ask myself. Where are we going with this label ideology? Labeling all people as one thing, whether good or bad, as one monolith? Well, obviously, nothing good's gonna come out of it. You know, that's the most frustrating part about progressives. They claim to be progressive, but they don't focus on the things that matter. The conversation always revolves around reparations. And in this case, the truth finally revealed itself. The push for reparations has nothing to do with righting previous historical wrongs. And I mean, just apply basic common sense. When has throwing money at a problem ever solved anything? You know, progressives don't want to have a conversation about failing neighborhoods and failing schools. Progressives don't want to have a conversation about the destruction of cultural norms, standards, and traditions, or the destruction of the nuclear family, the removal of the father from the home. We're talking about the core components of racial inequality in American society. They don't want to have a conversation about any of that. No, what they want is taxpayer dollars to be packaged in reparation checks and sent out the next day. How are reparation checks going to help anybody if there's no culture of community investment, entrepreneurship, financial literacy, creating businesses, creating things? That is what needs to be built. That is what needs to be pushed, not this ideology of vengeance and pointing the finger and blaming. This ideology of separation, us versus them. Taxpayer handouts won't solve any of it. You know what does solve these problems? Capitalism. I know every leftist's brain shattered upon hearing that, but it's true. Think about groups who have suffered oppression for generations in relatively recent history. Those who are succeeding at the highest levels, those who have the highest level of representation, have a couple things in common: a strong sense of community, family, education, and most importantly, business, entrepreneurship. That is how you achieve representation in a society and in democracy. And the way you get that representation is through dollars, lobbying, foundations, organizations, investment. You build community, you build culture, you build wealth. You know, real money, real investment talks, and it solves problems. It sounds crazy, but it's true. Instead, the proposed solution is to do what exactly? Hand out multiple $1,000 checks, hundreds of thousands of dollars, to anybody who can prove a claim of ancestral ties to victims of slavery? Where's that money gonna go? It's not gonna get reinvested into the communities that need it. We're essentially talking about stimulus checks. Who benefited from stimulus checks being handed to the lowest economic class throughout the pandemic? Where did that money go? It all went right back into the economy, being spent on luxury goods, being spent on goods in general, and it went all right back to the top 1%. Billionaires expanding their wealth like never seen before. The greatest wealth gap created in American history. These leftists didn't realize, but they essentially made the argument as to why reparations is unjustifiable and should never happen. First off, because the economics of it make no sense, it doesn't solve any problems. And secondly, it's not going to solve any of the cultural animosity issues either. As this woman admitted, you can send all the money you want, yet you are still perceived as the enemy. You are still perceived as a symbol of historical hatred. And obviously, that's not a good situation for anyone. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.